Great to see you. Oh goodness, my hat's crooked. It's lovely to be out here on a very sunny, bright day. Let me show you the garden, because that's the point, right? So here's the garden. And a passing aeroplane. And this is the white corner, and it's looking pretty lovely. I'm really enjoying my roses this year. They're starting to get spotty now. But aren't they gorgeous? This is nice to see them actually being roses. Hello, beautiful beings. I can see you jumping on, and it's always lovely to have you join me. Hi, Robin. Hi, Mike. So I did actually get in here. You can see it's a lot cleaner. And I did prune some of this down, but I can't stand to cut off the flowers. So we still got flowers, and there's still a lot of work to do here. Look at the coriander. Isn't it lovely? That is coriander. See, that turns into the coriander seed. And yeah. So it's nice to be out here, and the feverfew is still beautiful. I really do enjoy this. And oh yeah, see this? Oh, look, this bumblebee, busy at work. Oops. You can hear it if I shut up. Isn't that just lovely to listen to a bumblebee? There's something about that sound which is just all about summer. And see how these blooms have kind of gone gold and green, and they're changing. I don't know how well the colour comes through, but anyway, there they are. And the white meadow rue is still meadow rueing, but it's fabulous. I really like seeing these whites together. So there they are, and this foliage is quite beautiful. It goes all golden, but like it reminds me of a maidenhair tree. And look, this fuchsia, it's only been in a little while, but it's just romping away and making flowers. They're very, very bright. Yeah, I don't know what colour that is. It's a cross between hot pink and scarlet and vermilion and everything that's bright red that you can think of. And so, yeah, here are the roses. And look, this fuchsia is also out and flowering. It's lovely. Very elegant, this one. I like it a lot. And the neighbour's hydrangeas, and actually the neighbour's hydrangeas, if I show you over the fence, are actually really colourful and beautiful. Lovely purple one there, and pink and white and blue. It's just, yeah, it's a fabulous show, and it does get beautiful. You're right, because this is the time, Robin. Look at these little buds. They are so gorgeous. So, yeah. So this is the place that it's still got lots of work to do. There's lots of pest plants in here, which I have to get out. But that will be easier in summer. Look at the Radimachia. It's just growing up and all lacy, but I got to cut that down again. In summer, when things dry out, I'll just keep going. You can see I went in the back there. See where that hole is? There's a few weeds growing, but I got to go in there with a fork and pull out more weeds. And this is what happens. This is a fuchsia that used to grow on the fence line, and I moved it, and it's settling in and making its first little bud. And this is something else that was growing in the back garden and never thriving, and I think it's going to do much better here. And there's another one there. I've got 3 of them. This one looks dead, but this plant has surprised me before, because I just put a piece in the ground that looked all dead on top, but it came from the bottom. So that one may come up, who knows. And I can't skip the hen and chicken fern. It's just so beautiful. Look at that. I just love that. There's just the regularity and the perfection and the order of that pattern is just, it's delicious to me. So that's this part of the garden. And then you have hot, reddy, orangey lily things. And they are fantastic. So enjoy the lilies. They're just beautiful. And yeah, we do have dahlias. These ones here are actually looking a little bit small, I think, and a bit pale. I think I need to put some food on these, because I mean there's no food that goes into these bulb beds, and they do just keep producing. So I think I've got some compost and I need to put it on this year. Oh, look at that. See this? Those are seeds. It's one I missed. I'm going to put it down here and pick that up on my way in, I hope. So the dahlias are growing, and there's my compost heap that is composting so nicely, and this is the place where stuff gets dumped because I've got to have somewhere to dump it. And look at this. These plants that I put in here are just thriving. I've never seen this summer jasmine look so happy. In another year it should be covered in green leaves and look really good. But look at this. These leaves are almost velvety. Must be covered in tiny hairs, and I really enjoy seeing them do well. So there's the white corner from the other side, and this is the place. It's the bit I still want you to see, because look, the gladiolus are coming out. I've got this little salmon coloured lily, and you can see what colour it is when it opens and what colour it fades to, which is actually quite beautiful, sort of peachy colour. And look, this is the old gladiolus and the new one, and they're both fabulous, because if you look closely at these dead flowers, just, take a moment to stop thinking, oh, they're dead, and look at the wriggly downward cascading waterfall like shapes of the wrinkled petals. I find that beautiful. And then look at this one. That. It's fabulous. So there's something to appreciate in every part of the life cycle. And of course, you have the calendula, which are so bright and beautiful, and you can eat them, which is why I put them in there. And this is my mother's gladiolus. This one she bred. It's a cross between a white species gladiolus that's very thin and has small flowers, and it's crossed with something else and come up with this, which is lovely. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that. I enjoy it every year. And look, last but not least, Lilium regal. Ta-da, ta-da! They're massive flowers. They smell wonderful, and these huge tall stems. So it's always lovely when they come out and they stay out for ages. And of course, she says like it isn't exciting. These ones are still going. So the garden's pretty gorgeous. Let me go inside and tell you what I've done today. It's been quite a productive morning. I actually took a little time and harvested the red currants. I'll show you the red currants. We'll go through the kitchen. Don't know what state it's in, but anyway. Take this off. Over here. Bump the camera. Put that in this place. Here. Very proud, really. Here. Oh, no, not that. Wrong. Oh, God, no. Hit the wrong button. Turn the camera around. There you go. There are the red currants. So, yeah, it took about half an hour to get them off the tree, but aren't they fabulous? They taste pretty good too. So, all right. That's enough garden raving now. Let's put those over there. Close this. All these things I haven't done because I've been busy showing you things, but that's part of the fun. So now what I managed to get to today was a little bit further into the whole thing of what is this emotional addiction that I keep blithering on about. And I had this all set up and I bumped it, so I'm going to set it up again. See, I'm wonky. There we go. Now I'm not wonky. Hopefully I won't fall over. All right. So I've been wanting to explain emotional addiction in my own very simple terms for quite some time, and now I'm actually finally doing it, which I find very pleasing. It's quite challenging because it's made me identify some holes in my own model, if you like. It's made me wonder, what am I talking about here? Let me not be talking rubbish. I actually want to, tell a real story. So what are my notes that I've written here? Oh yeah, I started thinking about the fact that when we think the same thoughts and feel the same feelings, because you cannot have a thought without making chemistry, and that chemistry will make your body feel something, whether we notice that or not is about a threshold. It's whether it crosses the threshold of our awareness, if you like. But the thoughts and the feelings that we feel the most often. We've already talked many times about how the fact that that chemistry that goes from our brain, it signals our hormonal centers and a whole lot of other stuff, but just keeping it simple, it signals our hormonal centers so that we get feelings. But the other thing that happens is that those chemicals actually hit receptors on our cells. And the signal that the receptor receives goes into the cell and makes the cell produce a protein. And the proteins are what our body is built of, and how good you make your proteins is how healthy your body is. It's really, really direct. And so your thoughts and therefore your feelings actually have a direct effect on your genetic expression, and that's how healthy your body is. It's really, really direct, and it's from moment to moment to moment, because remember, every thought you have, you make chemicals, and that affects your genetic expression in that moment. So that genetic expression is triggered, if you like. It's woken up. It's like, okay, we're going to make this protein, because there's a signal. You think a thought, and there's a chemical signal, and it goes to your cells, and it activates receptors on the cells. And in fact, the whole piece I haven't talked about the fact that yes, we make chemistry, but in fact, when we think, we also make an electromagnetic thing, and there's frequency involved. And God, I haven't unpacked that at all because I don't understand it so well. But the truth is that our cells are 100 times more sensitive to frequency than they are to chemistry. However, I don't want to go there yet. What I'm talking about is how our cells can become chemically addicted to the thoughts that we think and the feelings and the chemistry, the feelings that we have. We can actually get addicted. But how does that, how can we possibly how is it possible that our most common thoughts and feelings can change how our cells work? Because this was a revelation to me, and I didn't understand it for a while, and I sort of had to, read and reread and think about it, and look at examples and all the things you do when you're trying to work something out. And this is how, because that chemistry hits the receptor on the cell. Now, if you have XYZ standard cell, the surface is studded with receptors. Remember, the skin, the membrane of the cell is actually the cell's brain, because that's what the cell uses to sense what's going on outside and respond to it. And it's also what keeps the cell together. And it's what transmits information from the outside of the cell into the inside of the cell. And I mean, stuff goes through it, wastes come out and get chucked out into the bloodstream so they can be taken away, and all of this stuff. But the cell is actually the brain, because you can take the nucleus of a cell away and it will still live for quite some time. But you can't take the skin of a cell, the membrane of a cell away. It will die, because it's not going to hold it together, and there's no information. The cell relies on information to function. And the reason, by the way, when you take the nucleus away, that the cell will eventually die, is because that nucleus has got the DNA in it, and the signal that comes from the outside and it hits on the receptor, it wakes the receptor up, and the signal goes into the cell and talks to the DNA and says, make this protein. Well, those proteins are what makes the cell function. The cells are made up of proteins. The DNA isn't expressing the right proteins, or it's not expressing quality proteins to keep that cell functioning well, the cell's going to break down and die. Now, the thing is, that's normal in our bodies, that cells die and are replaced. What is it, 100 million every second? That's just normal, Our bodies are amazing that many cells can die in a second and be replaced in a second. And they get replaced because a healthy cell divides, called mitosis, if I remember rightly. And I don't know much about it. You see, my ignorance is my superpower here, because I don't know all the details, so I can't go down big rabbit holes and tell you a lot of detail about it. But what I know is that cells divide, and that's how our body replaces cells that die. Sensible way to do it. But what happens is that those receptors that are on the outside of the cell, I mean, the cell, must remember it has ways of knowing, oh, there are more survival chemicals in the bloodstream than usual, or oh, there are more feeling happy chemicals in the bloodstream than usual. It knows what's normal. That's called homeostasis in the body. And our body it's always the whole system that we have in here, the autonomic nervous system particularly, and I'm gesturing to here because that's the bit in the middle of our brain and the brain stem and the central nervous system. It does everything that we don't think about, like breathing and digesting our food and making our heart beat and regulating temperature and all that stuff. That all happens. I've lost my thought now, damn it, because I wanted to describe the picture I was having in my head. And I'll find it. But we have these cells and they divide, and the autonomic nervous system regulates homeostasis. It wants to keep everything the same. So, most people, when they're born, you just have a normal homeostasis. You have a normal, healthy child. And, most newborn babies, or many newborn babies, are peaceful and happy, and they're just a newborn baby, right? And then depending upon what the newborn child experiences, they either get lots of love and nurture and attention and care and they get what they need, or maybe they grow up in a situation where it's very stressful and very difficult. And either way, the information from the outside world comes in through their senses and it ends up as chemistry in their body. And the cells in their body notice what that chemistry is. And if the chemistry if it becomes normal that the chemistry is happy, well then the cells will change to accommodate the fact that the chemistry is happy. And if it becomes normal that the chemistry is unhappy or stressful or fearful or painful or whatever it is, the cells will actually change the receptors that are on the outside of themselves to make it normal that it feels like that. It actually becomes the normal that the body maintains to be in pain or to be sad or to be angry or to be whatever it is. It becomes the normal, and the whole autonomic nervous system, not your conscious mind which says, oh my God, I feel awful, I want this to be different, but your autonomic nervous system says, this is normal, I got to keep things the same. And more than that, coming back to the cells dividing, the cells, there they are, they've got a certain amount of receptors on the outside, and I'm keeping this very simple. Let's just say they have receptors on the outside for happy chemicals and for survival chemicals. And let's say that they got about the same number of receptors on the outside of the cell for each kind of chemical. Happy, survival, whatever. In the case of somebody who has a lot of survival situations going on in their life for whatever reason, if it becomes normal to the autonomic nervous system, if the autonomic nervous system says, hey, it's normal for me to be stressed, I'm going to call this normal now. And it's just always sending out stress hormones because that's normal, because there's all these stressful things going on. Then eventually the cell, when the cell comes time to divide, it's going to say, look, I've got this number of receptors for stress hormones or stress chemicals, but actually I'm having trouble coping with all of those. And I don't get to use my receptors for happy chemicals very often at all. So I've got too many of those. They're sort of hanging around idle. When I divide, I'm going to make it so that there are fewer happy chemical receptors and there are more stress chemical receptors. That's what actually happens. The cell, the number of receptors on the outside of the cell changes. More than that, because there's so much survival chemical stuff going on, the receptors themselves can actually get blunted. They can get deadened. It's like, oh, really? More of this? It's kind of like they get bored and stop paying attention. So now you still need your cells to respond to the stress chemicals. For whatever reason, good, bad, or indifferent, you still need those things to work the way that you've been accustomed to them working. The body still has to function. It still has to be able to express the genes that create the proteins that are triggered when you have the stress chemicals. But the problem is that the receptors are kind of like they're blind and deaf, and so the signal has to be louder. And there's a lot more of them on the cell. So now you need more stress hormones, more stress chemicals to make the same cell, or the daughter cell, do the same thing than what the parent cell did. Parent cell would do it, with volume 4, but the daughter cell needs volume 5. And if it carries on like that, when that daughter cell itself divides, well then the daughter cell of the daughter cell might need volume 6 before the receptors will wake up. So this is what happens. And if you put that thought in one corner and then you think about somebody who takes their first hit of P, which gives people a huge dopamine rush, amongst other things, a lot of dopamine, so euphoria and everything. But it's so much dopamine that the dopamine receptors go, oh my God, I'm on overload, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm gonna go away and rest. They shut down. And so the next time you want to get that same high, you have to take a bigger dose, or you have to do it sooner. And that's literally what happens. And it doesn't matter whether it's, an addictive drug or your negative emotion that you feel all the time. Your body is conditioned at the cellular level to have more receptors for this, whatever chemical it is that you're accustomed to thinking and feeling and producing. More receptors for that, less for the other thing that you want. And that's what happens. And then one day you decide, oh gee, I realise this isn't good for me. I realise that when this happens, I go into survival, I stop having a brain, I make dumb decisions, I hurt people, I hurt myself. Besides, I'm making myself sick, all of that stuff. I should stop. I better stop. I want to stop. And you do that. You think, okay, I've got to do something different. And you try and you make a willful choice. And it works for a little while. And then something happens and boom, you're back to being who you were. And it's because what's actually happened is that your cells are saying, hello, I need volume 6. You turn the volume down to 3. What the hell are you talking about? I need that chemistry now. Give me that chemistry. And the body literally starts to crave the very feeling that you want to stop having. Just like a drug addiction. It is exactly the same process in our bodies. So this is how it works. I find it really cool. I've got clearer that I can explain it. I love being able to explain it. And I find it very empowering because this is why. And I was doing this in my meditation this morning and last night before I went to bed, there was something that I knew I needed to change a thought because it was a really ugly, painful, limiting, bad thought, to put a judgment on it. It wasn't a thought I wanted to keep thinking. And it didn't have a good feeling with it at all. It was horrible. But the amount of resistance that I had to thinking a new thought was precisely because the neurology in my brain that goes with that old thought been fired a lot. And the chemistry that went with it was very powerful. And my body's experienced that a lot. And there I was saying to my body, no, I want to think a different thought and I want to try or at least pretend to imagine that there might be a different feeling on the other side of that. It was really hard. But I'm familiar with this. I understand why. So I will move on through it. I will keep, I will practice. I will keep going because I understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so even though it feels awful to think that different thought and even worse to try to feel that different feeling, it's because my cells are saying, are you freaking crazy? You haven't given me any of that chemistry for 15 years and now you want me to have receptors for it? I don't got none. And the volume's turned way down, so this is what we're up against inside ourselves. And I love being able to explain it because I find it really empowering. And really, that's what I talked about today. So I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to say that was a good morning. I wrote some more stuff. I found a piece a relevant piece of text that I've written in another document that I thought, oh, that doesn't belong there, it belongs here, so I moved it. I'm just joining up the dots, carrying on with the process, writing this content for this website that's going to be called God and Me. And my husband did some more drawing last night, so I'm going to turn that into a post so you can see what the thinking is. He's clearly got ideas in his mind, and I've got some feedback from one of my patrons who said, oh, I think Amma could look like this, because in Patreon, I did a post with a face on it that's just an empty face and a question mark in it, and I said, what does Amma look like? And Amma is our cave woman mother, right? Because there's a tribe of cave people, and I use them to tell stories that I don't want to be too close to our readers or our listeners. Some people have got enough crap going on in their lives, they don't need any more, so I'm putting it out there in prehistoric times. So they tell those stories, and I shared with my patrons a little piece of the content that I've written for the site, which is, this is the story of Amma. This is what happened. This is the experience she had, which branded her emotionally, changed her, survival experience, she nearly died, and just to see if it would help them to give me some feedback on how they think she might look. So that's the sort of thing my patrons are going to be starting to do, and I would love to have you on board if there's something you'd like to be involved in. This is an ongoing project, it's a development, it's something that we are creating as a service. Yeah, it'll be paid for those that can afford to subscribe, it won't be expensive, but when there is enough support, it'll be going into developing countries free of charge. That is my vision. So that's what we're doing, and I invite you to check me out on Patreon if you haven't already. Come on board if you'd like to. There are some wonderful things that we're going to be doing together. Regardless, thank you so much for joining me here on Facebook. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Do feel free to like, to share, subscribe, whatever serves you best, and I look forward to seeing you again in a week. Until then, much love. Bye-bye.